I know you've been asked this about 1,000,000 times, but who's excited to be at Access Conference tonight? Night one. It is gonna be an amazing year, mainly because it's 2 years in the making. Y'all know when you got something, when there's a little buildup, it's just like, you can already feel it. I can already feel it. It's gonna be amazing. Hey, quick poll. Raise your hand if this is your very first Access Conference. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Welcome. There's so much happening. I want to do some shout outs to some different states that are represented. Is that all right? Shout out some states. All right, let me just try. Just wait for your state to be called. All right. Where's Virginia at? Virginia. Yep. All right. I know we got a couple groups from Iowa. All right. What about Arkansas? Arkansas, pretty close. All right. Wow. How about Missouri? Oh yeah, strong. We got a little crew from Mississippi, I think, a little Mississippi action. All right. I know we've got a good crew from Alabama. Where's Alabama at? All right, I see you. I know we've got a little group from Georgia. Where's Georgia at? Georgia. There they are right there. Illinois is here somewhere. There we go. North Carolina's here, I think, somewhere. They didn't make it. Oh, wait. Maybe they didn't make it. I know we got a crew here from New York, too. Our New York family sitting right over there. What's up, New York? And we do have a pretty large group from Tennessee, I think. Tennessee. Yeah. Thanks for being here. Thanks for traveling. Some of y'all had a long drive. Some of y'all Iowa, New York people, Virginia even. Yeah, that's a long, smelly ride. Y'all know what I'm talking about? If I've never met you before, my name is Parker VanBlaricom. I have the honor of being on the team here at the Life Church and helping lead Access Conference. I have been married for almost 7 years to my amazing wife, Bryn. Yeah, we can give it up for her. I've got 2 kids, one 2.5-year-old boy named Leo and one 3-month-old girl named Violet. And I wanted to see if you guys would want to see if Leo wants to come say hi. We're going to try it. I don't know. Can we see? Come on. Hey, come on. Oh. All right. He made the entrance pretty good. You want to say hi to everybody? You're looking at yourself. You want to say hi on this microphone? Okay, all right, I'm gonna try this. Leo, I got a really important question for you. What is your favorite color? Your favorite color? Say that in the microphone.
Oh, red.
That's a red, by the way. Those people all cheering for you. He's on red team, I guess. I'm not sure he knows what to do here. You got anything else you want to say? He just wants to hug me. Look at that. Come on, how about that? Isn't that amazing? Give it up for Leo. Good job, buddy. He did a good job on the entrance, but he got a little nervous there. Hey, it is pretty awesome having kids. And before I jump into the word, I want to do one thing that I think is very important, that we take a moment to do this. I know they were up here earlier, but I want to honor the 2 people that this conference literally would not be possible without. That's the senior pastors of this house, Pastors John and Leslie. Can we show some love and some honor? Oh, come on, Access Conference. You can do a little bit better than that. Come on. I'm telling you what, it would not be possible. We got an amazing team and all that, but it's their vision, it's their dream, and so we love them, we honor them, we're thankful for them. And if you see them anytime during the week, just tell them thank you for the investment. They make a considerable investment in this week. And it's gonna be an amazing week. Get your Bibles out, get your notebooks out, open up to the book of Ephesians chapter 1. Who's ready for God's word? Anybody ready? Yeah, it's all right, we'll work on it. We're gonna have a ton of fun this week, all right? We've got, like Johnny and Anna said, after parties and openers and tribal wars and silent disco and food trucks and inflatables and game trucks and go-karts and random stuff like that. It's gonna be amazing, but I love all of it. But I just want to remind you that these moments right here, God's word, that worship we just had a little bit, that's really what matters this week. I know that all the other stuff is going to be fun. Trust me, I'm about it. It's going to be a blast. Winning tribal wars is going to make a good memory, but I believe experiencing God will leave a mark. And so this week, we don't just want to make good memories, although we will. We want to be marked by the presence of God. We want our lives to be changed and impacted. And when the fun of conference is all over, the stuff that will still remain is the stuff that happens in these moments like this. So I want you to lean in. Lean into the messages each session. Lean in worship. That's going to be what matters. We have this phrase that we say on Wednesday nights here, note takers are history makers. And it's a cute little phrase that rhymes, which always helps. And we say it kind of as a reminder to take notes, but here's why we actually say it. If I could just set up why we say note takers or history makers. It's because if you want to do anything significant in this life for the kingdom of God, it is going to require a love for God's word. So we say note takers or history makers is because when you start valuing, honoring, and loving God's word, you can start making history in your world. And so why don't you say it with me? Note takers are history makers. Let's try it one more time. Note takers are history makers. So I hope you're taking notes. By the way, that conference app, you can take notes on that if you want. Just don't be scrolling over to Snapchat and mid-message and trying to keep your streaks alive, and don't get on TikTok and whatever phone app game that you play these days. I just want to get us started tonight. We have an amazing lineup of communicators the rest of this week. I cannot wait to hear from all the different people that are going to communicate. So I'm just going to kick us off, get us started. And to get us started, I want to go to Ephesians chapter 1. Ephesians chapter 1. The theme of conference this year is the center of it all. The center of it all, if you haven't noticed by now. And to set up why this is the theme, I've got to take you all the way back to the beginning of Access, the very launch of Access, the ministry. It was 17 years ago, actually, in the year 2004. Access was launched as the youth ministry of the Life Church. I was in 6th grade at the time, but the problem was we only opened it to 7th through 12th graders, so I missed out on the first year. It's kind of messed up, but that's irrelevant. We called it Access, and it began with one simple question. What does your world revolve around? What does your world revolve around? And the reason we ask that question is because the word axis means a point on which something centers on or revolves around. So quite literally, we were asking the question, what's the axis of your life? What's at the center? Fast forward 17 years, we're here in June 2021 having another Access conference, and I want to pose that same question to you tonight. What does your world revolve around? What's at the center of your life? There's a lot of good things you can answer that question with. For some of you, it's academic success at the center of your life. You grind out those homework assignments, you make some great grades, you've got big plans to get into an amazing school. It's awesome. For some, it's athletic achievement. You are going to practice after practice after practice, hoping for some more college offers. For you, it could be music. Maybe you have a gift. You feel like you might have a chance to actually make it big. So right now, that's what it's all about. For some of you, I'm just gonna be honest, it's just like Fortnite. You just wanna be the best. You stay, wiping out Tomato Town or whatever. Fortnite, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Others of you, a relationship is at the center of your life. You've met the love of your life, and since you're only 14, you're gonna wait about 8 years to get married, but still, this is the one, all right? This is the one. And you already know that 98.6% of high school relationships don't go the distance, but you guys are different. You're different, we know, all right? They just don't understand us, babe. They don't get it. It's me and you against the world. Side note, if he says it's me and you against the world, that is a good sign to run, because that's a losing combination right there. You two against everybody else, you're gonna lose, all right? So anyways, most of these are decent things, right? Worthwhile pursuits. But what I wanna submit to you tonight on the first night of Access Conference is that there are a lot of good things to put at the center of your life, but there is only one perfect thing to put at the center of your life. I believe wholeheartedly that every single person in this room was created to revolve around Jesus Christ. You were made to function best with Jesus at the center. Before I get into the bulk of the message tonight, I want to read a passage of scripture that's sort of the inspiration for this year's theme. It's sort of the theme passage. It's in Ephesians chapter 1, and I'm gonna read out of the Message paraphrase. Paul is writing to a large church in the city of Ephesus, and here's what he says in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 17. It'll be on the screen, by the way, because we're in the 21st century. I ask the God of our Master, Jesus Christ, the God of glory, to make you intelligent and discerning in knowing him personally. Everybody say personally. Your eyes focused and clear so that you can see exactly what he is calling you to do. Grasp the immensity of this glorious way of life he has for his followers. Oh, the utter extravagance of his work in us who trust him. Endless energy, boundless strength. All this energy issues from Christ. God raised him from the dead and set him on a throne in deep heaven, in charge of running the universe. Everything from galaxies to governments, no name and no power exempt from his rule. And not just for the time being, but forever. He is in charge of it all. He has the final word on everything. At the center of all this, Christ rules the church. The church, you see, is not peripheral to the world. The world is peripheral to the church. The church is Christ's body in which he speaks and acts, by which he fills everything with his presence. I want to be upfront with you tonight about the goal of Access Conference. I don't want to hide the mission and the strategy and what's our ulterior motive. I'll tell you exactly what our motive is this week. Everything we're doing, the worship, the messages, the openers, the tribe awards, the serve day, the fun, all of it is for one ultimate goal: to inspire you to put Jesus and his church at the very center of your life. That's the goal. So I'm gonna tell you right up front. It's all for one ultimate goal, because here's the reality. You can try a lot of things at the center. You can even achieve some level of success with different things at the center. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, if it's not Jesus and his church at the center, it's not gonna truly work. There won't be true and lasting fulfillment. There won't be supernatural peace and joy in every season. There won't be freedom that you truly need and desire, because you were created, handmade by God, to revolve around him and his kingdom. So when you get outside of his plan and his formula, you can't help but walk in less than his best for your life. I've titled the opening message of Access Conference 2021, real simple: Jesus at the center. Jesus at the center. Let's pray and let's jump into it. God, we thank you for your word. We open up our hearts. We open up our minds. We tune out the distractions. We want whatever you want for us. We may have some expectations and some plans this week, but they're not gonna be as good as yours. So we say, have your way in our hearts, in our minds. We want it all. And God, we thank you, you're gonna do amazing things even tonight on the first night. We don't wanna wait till night 4 to experience you. We want it tonight, and we thank you that we're going to. And side note, God, we just thank you that Ja Morant's gonna be the greatest NBA player in the history of basketball. In Jesus' name, amen. Ja Morant, baby. There are two kinds of people in this world, two kinds of people. People that know a lot about cars and people that don't know anything about cars. Two different people. I happen to be in the group of people that knows very little to nothing about cars. I don't know how engines work. I don't know how to change my oil. I don't know what horsepower is or why I should care about torque. What is torque? I don't know. I don't care. I'm really clueless. But I learned a small detail about cars about 10 years ago. When I was 19 years old, I was an intern here at church and also going to the University of Memphis. And shout out to University of Memphis if anybody. Sure, why not? During this time, we were having access services every Wednesday night at our Jackson location, which is about an hour away. And I was a part of the team there, and that meant I went every other week to go preach out at this campus. And it was really fun and pretty cool opportunity for a 19-year-old who felt called to ministry. And every time I went to Jackson, I rode with this guy, a friend of mine. His name was Austin. Austin was a graphic designer on our creative team, and he was a part of our Jackson location for a long time. He was gracious enough to let me ride with him every week that I went out there. And Austin drove this reddish, burgundy-ish, older Ford Focus. And one of the main things I remember from those drives every week was just how unique his music tastes were. Austin was a pretty cool guy, all right? He had big gauges in his ears, cool hairstyle, typically on the front end of different trends. So when it came to his musical taste, it was no different. He rarely played a song in the car that I had ever even heard of. And since it was his car and his gas, I never dared ask for the aux cord. Which, side note, how many of you know The most important person in the car is the person who's got the aux, right? That's a pretty big decision. I mean, it's the most crucial decision of the entire drive. Like, who's driving? That's pretty important. Where you sit? That's pretty important. But if you got the wrong guy on the aux, oh man, it's gonna be a long drive. So some of you have been like, give me the aux. Nobody's giving it to you because you're not the right guy. You're not the guy for the aux, all right? And I'm not saying Austin was the wrong guy to have the aux. I'm just saying sometimes we were listening to piano metal, Nintendo core, medieval folk rock, German reggae, or Croatian techno. I'm kind of kidding. I looked all those up. I don't know any of those. I just looked up the weirdest music genres. But to me, it was all the same, right? Weird stuff I'd never heard of. That's not really the point of the story. Just kind of a side note. One night, Austin and I were driving back after Access. We grabbed some dinner with the team there and then started our normal hour to hour and 15-minute drive back home. And you know, I can't remember what song was playing that night, but around midnight and halfway through our hour-long drive home, we're going about 75 on the interstate, and out of nowhere, we hear a crack, and the car starts nosediving to the right, off of the road. I mean, sparks are flying behind us. It's rattling into the ground. I have a moment where my life sort of flashes before my eyes. It was a pretty scary moment. It all happened so fast, and then you just come to a stop and kind of a little off to the side of the road into the grass, and both sort of caught our breath and sat there for a minute as cars were whizzing past us on the road, and we got out of the car to see what had happened. And what happened was when we got along to the side of the car, we saw that the front right tire was like twisted sideways. Like, it was bizarre. It's almost like it had fallen off. And so we weren't even driving on the tire anymore. We were driving on some kind of metal stuff. I don't know anything about cars, so it was metal. And the tire was in the wrong position, and it became a pretty big ordeal. We're in the middle of nowhere, so it took a long time to get a tow truck out there to drive us home. We're squished in with this dude that's smoking in the car, and it's just like us two and him, and we're just like sitting there driving, and he drops the car off, and eventually we figured out what happened. Apparently, the axle in the car snapped in half while we were driving. For whatever reason, it wore down enough that it just broke. Now, I mentioned that I don't know much about cars, so I had to ask around to confirm that this was accurate this week. And so I know this is a very simplistic way to explain it, so if you're a car person, don't come for me. But listen, the axle essentially is connected to the center of the tire. It's what the tire rotates on when it's driving. And so when the axle snapped, the tire it was connected to could no longer rotate effectively. I believe there's a spiritual lesson here, and it's this. When what is at the center of your life is broken, you're headed for a crash. And here's what I really want to explore tonight. Why am I saying this? It's because for most of us in this room, it's not academics or athletics that's at the center of our world. It's not music or Fortnite that's at the center of our world. It's not that even relationship that we're so enamored with that's at the center of our world. For most of us, what's at the center of our world is us. For most of us, our world revolves around us. You, me. It's all about me. And for you, it's all about you. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but think about it. Like, it's true. How many selfies are in your camera roll right now? How many of you, this one amazes me. How many of you right now have yourselves as your phone background? Like every time you unlock your phone, you just gotta get a look at yourself. You still look good, buddy. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's true. I've seen it. It's a fact. Every time I find a lost phone, I'm like, I know whose phone this is because it's themselves on the background. When you guys were getting ready tonight, getting dressed, what were you thinking about? You were thinking about what everyone else was gonna think about your fit. And here's what's funny about that. No one's actually paying attention to what you're wearing because they're too focused on what they're wearing. Nobody's even noticing all that work that you put in, but that's yet our filter. More people die per year on average taking a selfie than people that die from shark attacks, skateboarding accidents, and even climbing Mount Everest. Social media has accelerated self-obsession in our culture unlike anything in the history of the world. And listen, I love social media. This is not about social media. I'm not the guy up here that's like, don't ever get on social media. I use it all. That's not even what it's about. And I'm not even saying this in like a critical, judgmental way because the truth is we're all guilty of this. And to be honest, it's not even new. A lot of people will be like, well, this generation is just so self-centered. Actually, no, this has been going on since the beginning of time. 16-year-olds today aren't new to being self-centered. All your parents, they're self-centered too. All their parents, self-centered too. Everybody that's ever existed has had an inclination to put themselves at the center of their world. It's our default mode. But here's the problem. We weren't actually created to be the center of our own lives. We're too broken for that. So when we revolve around ourselves, it's like we've stuck in a broken axle in the middle of a tire. It's not gonna work, and we're headed for a crash. Because when you're at the center of your own life, it creates some problems. And we are seeing the symptoms of a self-centered world right now. Just look around. Self-centered thinking is what leads to hate. It's what leads to violence. It's what leads to racism. It's what leads to cancel culture. Honestly, I could make the argument that it's self-centered thinking that leads to anxiety and depression and loneliness. It's because you weren't designed to function like this. When you're at the center of your own life, you're driven by your own desires instead of what God desires for you. When you're at the center of your own life, you become overwhelmed by your struggles and by your problems because they're magnified even more than they should be. But the reason most of us have ourselves at the center of our lives and we haven't switched that out with something else is because we won't truly put anything else in the center until we encounter something much more important than us. That's why an encounter with Jesus is just that powerful. Because one encounter with him can totally realign everything in your life. And so my prayer for you this week is that you would have your own personal encounter with Jesus and that your life would be completely changed. Maybe it'll happen tonight, maybe it'll happen tomorrow. At some point during this week, I'm believing for every person in this room to have an encounter with Jesus. That you wouldn't be convinced by someone's message or by some bright lights or cool openers, but you would experience the real thing for yourself. And so for the remaining few moments tonight, I want to show you both the symptoms of a life revolving around you and what happens when Jesus takes that central place instead, okay? And so how we're going to do this is I'm going to give you 3 different people in the Bible, 3 different characters in the New Testament who, for whatever reason, had something else on their mind, something else at the center until they had a personal encounter with Jesus and everything was flipped upside down. So if you're taking notes, I hope you're taking notes because note takers are history makers. I really believe a lot of you tonight, by the way, you're gonna connect with one of these things. And I know for a fact, I can say this with a lot of confidence, that some of you are gonna meet Jesus tonight for the first time. I really believe that. Anybody else believe that? Anybody else have some faith for that with me? Come on. All right. So if you're taking notes, what happens when you encounter Jesus? Number 1, when you encounter Jesus, your desires no longer drive you. Your desires no longer drive you. How do you know your world revolves around you? Well, whenever you feel like doing something, you just do it because that's who's in charge. And for many of us tonight, we've bought into the lie of culture that says if we feel it, it's true. If we feel it, it's right. I should just follow that. If I want it, I should have it. But if you haven't learned yet, you will soon. A life driven by your own desires is a very empty life. But the truth is, I don't have to tell most of you that because you're experiencing it right now. You already know. You're the king of your own life. You say yes to whatever feels good. You're following your heart, yet for some reason that good feeling just doesn't last. That's why the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 12, there is a path before each person that seems right. It feels right. It looks right. Culture says it's right, but it ends in death. And if you're in that place tonight, going down a road that feels good but keeps leaving you empty, I think there's a woman in the Bible who could relate. Famous story. You've probably heard it at a camp or conference or retreat at some point because it's just that good of a story. It's in John chapter 4. It's about the woman at the well. A lot of you are going to be familiar with this, but this woman is at a well and getting water at a well, and Jesus comes to the same well to get water, and they start having a discussion. They start having an exchange about water. And during the conversation, Jesus says something pretty powerful. John chapter 4, verse 13, Jesus replied, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. Please, sir, the woman said, give me this water. Then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water. Go and get your husband, Jesus told her. I don't have a husband, the woman replied. Jesus said, you're right. You don't have a husband, for you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth. Kind of messed up, but sir, the woman said, you must be a prophet. You think? How many of you know Jesus low-key know how to troll a little bit? I mean, he knew this. Like, that's messed up to just throw her out there. Anyways, Jesus was doing his thing. But you gotta read between the lines a little bit. You gotta look into the story and realize that it's clear this woman was searching for something. The fact that she rotated through that many men and that many marriages and that many relationships means there was something she was missing, something she was desiring that was leading her into relationship after relationship. And the Bible's funny because she's getting water from a well because she's thirsty, yet she's also cycling through men because she's also thirsty. And maybe you can relate tonight. Are you thirsty tonight? Now, maybe you're not as thirsty for a relationship like that woman was, okay? But your thirst could be a little thirsty for attention, could be a little thirsty for approval, could be a little thirsty for a follower. Follow me, I follow back. Shout out for shout out, please repost me. Maybe you're thirsty for a relationship. Maybe you're thirsty for that like on Instagram. Maybe you're thirsty for that substance you keep going back to. Ooh. For some of you, you've allowed whatever you desire to drive you. Whatever you thirst for is leading you. This woman was thirsty for one thing before she met Jesus. One conversation with Jesus, and all of a sudden her whole world was flipped upside down, because what happens to her after this story is, instead of being consumed with these relationships, she actually goes and decides, you know what, I'm gonna go tell everybody about this dude Jesus. She goes around like becoming like a ministry evangelist, because she's encountered Jesus and now her whole life's different. She's like, come tell me, come meet this man that told me everything I ever knew. Her whole life was flipped upside down. Instead of her own desires driving her, an encounter with Jesus realigned everything. And can I be honest? This is really the holdup for a lot of you. You think if you surrender your life to Jesus, it's gonna be boring. You have to stop doing all that stuff you like doing. You'll become some sort of religious robot with no personality. The truth is, some of you are driven by your desires because you like it too much. And why wouldn't you? They're your desires. The problem with this is our desires lie to us. They trick us. The enemy uses them to mislead us. It happens all the time. One of Leo's favorite things to do right now is go to the park. He loves the park. I mean, he will rearrange his schedule to go to the park. He loves playgrounds. He loves the swings, the slides, the climbing. Almost every day, he's like, let's go park. And there's this little small park across the neighborhood from us, basically across the street, literally like 1 minute away. Well, you could walk there. It's like a 1 minute drive. And we take them there almost on a weekly basis. And I have a picture of this park. It's the single picture of the park. I don't know if I didn't actually check to see if you guys got the right picture. So it's the picture with just one park. If we have that picture, let's throw that up there if we have it. If we don't, it's not that big of a deal. We can just look at me looking at the screen. There it is right there. Pretty solid park, right? I mean, it's got a little slide. It's got some swings, got some grass, got some little green chair in the middle there. I'm not sure what that's for. Not bad, right? Everybody say not bad. All right, you can take it down. You can take it down. It's an average looking playground, all right? A couple weeks ago, we said to Leo, let's get in the car, we're going to the park. And Leo, well, he was pumped. He's gathering his toys. He's waiting to put his shoes on. He's saying, come on, Daddy, let's go park. He's pretty hype, all right? And we get in the car, pull out of the garage, pull out of the neighborhood. Now, normally when we go to this park, it's right across the street. So when we pull out of our neighborhood, we go straight over the intersection and go to the park. That's the only way to get there. And so when I pulled out of the neighborhood, though, this time, I took a right, because today we were going to a new park, a different park, quite frankly, a better park. But the moment I turned right instead of going straight, Leo lost his mind. I mean, he started bawling his eyes out. I go park! I mean, he's panicking. Like, what? You said we're going to the park, we're turning right. He's freaking out. I'm going. He's distraught that we're not going to his park. And I explained to him, buddy, listen, we are going to the park. We're going to the park. We're going to a different park. It's a new park. It's really big. It's really cool. You're going to love it. And then he wasn't having it. He said through his tears, I don't want to go big park. I want to go baby one. Because he said anything that's small, he calls it a baby one for some reason. And I tried to reason with him and explain why this was so much better for him, but he wasn't having it. He cried the whole 15-minute ride to the park. But once we arrived at this park and he got out of the car and saw it, well, the tears went away pretty quickly because he saw the magnitude of this new park. It was nothing like the old park. And now I'm gonna show you some pictures of this, and it doesn't do it justice because I was just taking it with my phone that day, but can we throw that other picture up of all of it? Okay, this is one big park with it's got a sand pit over there, it got a couple slides, little ropes course, big old wide open space. I mean, that's a park. That is a park. You should have seen that dude in the sand. I mean, golly, he throwing sand on his head. He ended up having a blast at the park. You can take it down. He never once mentioned the baby park he was so upset about missing. And you have to understand something. Leo is only 2 years old, so he doesn't get to make many decisions about his life. He's pretty much just along for the ride, all right? So even though he desired to go to the baby park, he wasn't driving the car, so his desires couldn't drive him. Because I, as his father, knew he would enjoy the other park better, I was able to take him there. Guess what? You are not a 2-year-old. You're a big kid now. So you can pretty much do whatever you want. Congratulations, if no one's told you this yet, you can actually do whatever you want. Oh, I know your parents say you can't do this and you can't do that, but you guys know how to break all those rules anyway. You can actually do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. If you desire it, you can basically do it. And when you're at the center of your own life, you're in the driver's seat. But the problem with being in the driver's seat is that you let you drive you instead of letting your Heavenly Father drive you. And let me tell you something, the places he wants to go are so much better than anything you could find on your own, because Leo wouldn't have even known that another park was an option. He wouldn't have even had an understanding that there was other parks out there. All he knew was baby one. And so when we're going to a better park, a bigger park, a more exciting park, and we're driving, he's crying, baby one, I want to go to the baby park. He didn't have any clue where his dad was taking him. When you let God guide you instead of letting your desires drive you, you realize he's got something so much better for you than you could ever come up with on your own. He's got stuff you haven't even thought of yet because he has a greater awareness of what you need. You need to understand something like God knows what you need way better than you do. And I know you want it, and I know you desire it, but God desires something so much bigger and better for you. We're so driven by what we want, we're actually just doing ourselves a disservice because we're settling for less than God's best. But if you can have an encounter tonight, if you can put Jesus in the driver's seat and put him at the center, you don't have to let your desires drive you anymore. Some of you say, well, I can't help it. It's just what I feel like doing. I just have to do it. You don't have to be a slave to those things you keep falling into. You can be free tonight. You don't have to go down that road just because it's normal and everybody else is. You can be free tonight. You don't have to actually keep drinking to numb that pain. You can be free tonight. You don't have to let your desires drive you anymore. You can let Jesus and his word drive you into something much more satisfying and much more fulfilling instead. Number 2, when you encounter Jesus, your dysfunction no longer defines you. When you encounter Jesus, your dysfunction no longer defines you. One of the biggest flaws with putting yourself at the center of your life is all of a sudden your struggles and your issues are magnified and begin to define you. Because here's what you have to understand. When your world revolves around you, your world revolves around what's wrong with you. In John chapter 5, we read about a man who is paralyzed. He's been laying by this place called the Pool of Bethesda. And the Pool of Bethesda was believed by this cult-like group to have superpowers, like magical healing powers that every time it started bubbling, if you could get in the waters first, you would be healed. And so this paralyzed man spent his days laying there hoping to get in the pool to be healed. Let's read about it in John chapter 5, verse 1. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the Pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me in the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." And instantly the man was healed. Amazing. We got one golf clap for that. That's cool. I guess we can clap for it. I want you to think about this situation here. Here's a man who had been stuck in the same place with the same issue for 38 Years. That's a long time. His dysfunction had been a part of his life for so long that when Jesus asked him if he wanted to get well, he said, I can't. It's like he just accepted his fate. He was paralyzed, and that was just part of his identity. But when he encountered Jesus, not only did Jesus heal him of his physical issue, he was able to get up and move forward again. For every single one of us here tonight, we have our own level of dysfunction. It may not be a literal physical paralysis, but often our issues can feel a lot like we are paralyzed. For some of us, it's overwhelming fear. For others, it's crippling anxiety. Maybe for you, it's a dark cloud of depression. For others here tonight, it's a porn addiction. Some of you smoke something almost every day to battle your anxiety. Some of you are so self-conscious, you have a hard time even going out in public. And for a lot of us here tonight, we've been dealing with the same dysfunction for so long, it's just become a part of our identity. It's who we are. Well, I'm just an anxious person. I'm just kind of nervous. Well, I'm just a shy person. Well, I'm just kind of depressed. I'm just an alcoholic. It's kind of who I am now. We've taken our struggles, our sin, our issues, and we've made them our identity. But this is what happens when you put yourself at the center of your world, because the truth is, when Jesus is at the center, when you put him in his rightful place and you start to revolve around him, your identity changes. You're no longer defined by your dysfunction. You're defined and identified by Jesus Christ alone. And this is what's been holding some of you back. You feel like you're unworthy. Maybe you're too messed up, damaged goods. Why would Jesus want you? And what the enemy does is he tries to double down on these feelings by isolating you, by convincing you that you can't be accepted by Jesus because what you're struggling with is special. What you're dealing with, ooh, that's a good one. That's a unique one right there. I haven't seen that many times. I'd be careful about saying anything about that issue. It's one of the biggest lies the enemy uses to keep you trapped. And I want to attempt to eliminate that lie tonight. So I'm going to walk over here to this center stage, and we're going to try something. And I need your attention and your honesty as best as you can give it to me, because this is going to be an interesting moment. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I have high hopes that it's going to help somebody. In just a moment, we're going to turn all the lights off in this room. Every single one. We're going to clear the screen. It's going to be pitch black in here. Now, a couple things. It's not a blackout because we're about to do an opener, so don't be like, ah! All right, just stay calm, all right? I'm going to turn the lights off, and I'm going to give you some instructions. And what I need you to do is to give me your attention and give me your honesty, because what happens is often our struggles, our sin, our dysfunction is something we're ashamed of, something we keep in the dark. All right, you ready? Here we go. Are you guys going to be able to handle this? I'm a little nervous, all right, because y'all have had some hype tonight. I don't want hype right now. We want silence. Let's go ahead and turn the lights off, Taylor, and clear the screen. And let's get as dark as we possibly can in here. In fact, you can take these lights off of me as well. And if we can somehow get that stuff off the screen. Thank you. Okay. Now listen. You can handle it. It's all right. The fear for many of us is that if anyone knew, we wouldn't be accepted anymore. We'd be rejected, treated as weird, or like we're some sort of freak. What I want you to do is take your phone out and turn your flashlight on. Just go ahead and do it. Hold it up in the air. Don't need to talk yet. Just shh. Just take your flashlight out. Okay. Shh. I know it looks cool. Ooh, okay. Shh. 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 I want you to see that the next time the enemy whispers in your ear that you're all alone, or that you're a freak, or there's something wrong with you, that Jesus could never love you, no one could ever understand what you're going through. The next time you hear these lies, you can treat them like the lies that they are. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say something, and if it applies to you, I want you to turn your light on and hold it up in the air. If it doesn't apply to you, I want you to turn your light off and put it down. So let's practice. Everybody turn your light off. Okay, thank you. We're doing pretty good. Turn it off. Shh. We'll be all right. We'll make it. It's a big risk trying this, all right? We're trying it. Okay, I want you to, without talking, hold your light up if you ate breakfast this morning. Okay, awesome, all right. You can turn your lights off. Turn your lights on if you have white socks on tonight. All right, you can turn them off. Now, listen very closely. Some of these things I'm going to say are going to be difficult to identify with. And you may feel uncomfortable. I'm trying to make it as dark as possible so that we're not really looking at faces tonight, we're looking at lights. But if in the last 12 months, you felt extremely nervous, fearful about your future, hold your light up. Okay, you can turn it off. In the last 12 months, if you felt extremely alone, hold your light up. Okay, you can put it back down. If in the last 12 months you've had trouble sleeping because of anxiety, hold your light up. Okay, you can put it back down. If in the last 12 months you've faced excessive bullying, hold your light up. You can put it down. Again, listen to me. Shh. Shh. I'm asking you, I don't need a verbal response. We just need the light. Hold your light up if you've ever been abused by someone you trusted. You can put your lights down. Hold your light up if you've ever struggled with an eating disorder. You can put your lights down. Hold your light up if you've ever taken a substance or tried a drug because someone told you someone told you to. Okay, you can put it back down. Hold your light up if you've ever regretted going too far physically in a relationship. Put your lights down. Hold your light up if in the last year you've looked at porn. All right, you can turn your lights down. Turn your lights down. Turn your lights down. Turn your lights down. Shh. Shh. Hold your lights up if in the last 12 months you've thought about ending your own life. Okay, you can put them down. We can bring the lights up. Not your lights. We did all right there, all right? We did okay. We made it barely. The reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted, for some of you tonight, you've been gripped by this idea that you're the only one dealing with this, or if somebody else knew that you were going through that, they'd probably stop talking to you. The reason I wanted to go through a list of some that maybe were even a little more dramatic is because I wanted you to see that there has never, ever, ever been a situation where you're the only one dealing with that issue. Somebody else in this room is dealing with the same thing you're dealing with. In fact, somebody else in this room has overcome the same thing you're dealing with. Yeah, we can thank God for that. I don't know what your dysfunction looks like, but here's what I do know. When you encounter Jesus, your dysfunction doesn't have to define you anymore. For some of you tonight, you've been paralyzed by the same thing for way too long. It's become the center of your world. It's just who you are. You're proud of it now. Some of you are like, yeah, smoke, that's just what I do. Yeah, drink, that's just like, of course. Yeah, I'm anxious, isn't everybody? Yeah, I'm depressed, isn't the whole world depressed? This is how it is. Yeah, I watch porn. Well, okay. That's how some of you feel right now. Now, that's a sign that your dysfunction has started to define you. That's just a part of who you are now. It's so normal, but listen to me. It doesn't have to be that way. John chapter 16, verse 33 says, I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Jesus says, here on earth, you will have many trials and many sorrows, many struggles, many issues, but take heart because I have overcome the world. Jesus can help you overcome tonight. The Bible says when Jesus died on the cross, y'all know where he went? No, he went to hell, actually. Y'all may not know this. When Jesus died on the cross, he went down into hell. When he went down there, he, fist fought the devil, basically, and beat him up. Metaphorically. He metaphorically beat him up. But what he did when he went down there is he defeated the devil, he defeated hell, he defeated death. And when he rose from the dead, the Bible says he took the keys to death, hell, and the grave with him. So can I tell you tonight, the devil is so defeated in your life, he doesn't even have his keys to his own house anymore. He doesn't even have keys to hell anymore because Jesus took them. Sometimes we give the devil way too much credit. He can't do anything to you. He has zero power, zero authority. And some of you have been losing to an enemy that has no power. Jesus says, I actually have the keys to help you overcome that issue. And it can happen tonight. Band can come up. I'm going to close right here. When you encounter Jesus, your desires don't drive you anymore. When you encounter Jesus, your dysfunction doesn't have to define you anymore. But number 3, when you encounter Jesus, your doubts no longer derail you. Your doubts no longer derail you. I want to close talking about doubts tonight because at the end of the day, I think this is the primary thing that keeps people from truly going for it and trusting in Jesus. And I get it. Believing in Jesus is a pretty big deal. Believing in a God of the universe is pretty significant, pretty crazy. Like somebody rose from the dead. That's pretty crazy to believe. So I get it. You may be here tonight and you doubt that this could really be real. I understand that. Everyone has experienced doubts. Even one of Jesus' own disciples experienced doubt. In John chapter 20, Jesus has risen from the dead. He's alive after being dead. He's in a resurrected state, the Bible talks about. He looks a little different. He's crucified. God brought him back to life, and then he proceeds to walk around on earth for another 40 days, basically appearing to his disciples to prove that he was alive so that they could go and spread the gospel. One disciple named Thomas missed out on the first encounter with the resurrected Jesus. And listen to what he has to say when the other disciples tell him that Jesus is alive. John chapter 20, verse 24. This is some of you tonight. I'm telling you right now, some of you tonight, this is going to click for you for the first time. John chapter 20, verse 24. One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, was not with the others when Jesus came. And they told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he replied, "I won't believe it unless I see the nail wounds in his hands, put my fingers into them and place my hand into the wound in his side." He said, I need to see it to believe it. That's some of you tonight. I don't believe because I can't see it. 8 days later, the disciples were together again. This time, Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them, and he said, "Peace be with you." Then he turned right to Thomas. He said, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hand into my wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe." "My Lord, my God," Thomas exclaimed. Then Jesus told him, "You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." I want you to notice something about Thomas. Thomas had everybody in his world telling him, "You gotta believe this. You gotta believe. Like, Jesus is alive. We've seen it. He's risen from the dead. Just trust us. I'm telling you, it's real." And Thomas, like many of us, was skeptical. He didn't believe it. He needed proof. Some of you tonight, this is what's been holding you back. It's your doubt and your skepticism. You've had a hard time believing in something you can't see with your own eyes. And first, I want to make sure you understand that doubts are normal. We read about them all over the Bible. Plenty of people in the Bible even had doubts, and here we see one of Jesus' own disciples experience them. So you aren't weird because you're skeptical. I would argue that every Christian that's ever existed has had moments of doubt. So you're not alone. But I do want to explain something to you that I think is really important. If you wait to believe until someone convinces you he's real or shows you the proof, you will wait your whole life. Like, I know God is real. I'm sure of it. I know with all my heart. There's nothing you could say or do to convince me otherwise. I'm 100% convinced. And I can tell you to take my word for it, but that wouldn't be good enough. I could get up here and tell you all kinds of convincing things and convincing facts. I could tell you that this man, Jesus, fulfilled over 350 prophecies about him, hundreds of years said about him before he showed up. I could talk about the fact that the mathematical odds of fulfilling just 8 of those prophecies is around 1 in 100 quadrillion. I could tell you that that would be the equivalent to covering the whole state of Texas with quarters 2 feet deep, and then expecting a blindfolded man to walk across the state and on the very first try, find the one coin you marked. I could tell you about how the Bible is the single most consistent and historically accurate document we have ever seen. And that compared to any other piece of writing from any other century, even close to that, it's not even close. There is no comparison. I could show you how almost every single one of Jesus' disciples who saw him resurrected were so convinced that he was risen from the dead that they gave their lives telling other people he was real. That's why it's so funny when people think the gospel is some big business strategy or scam or hoax, like everyone who's telling the world about Jesus was just getting rich. No, actually, the people who spread this message across the known world died doing it. Some were beheaded, crucified, some were stoned to death, stabbed to death, even burned alive. Even Thomas, the one who doubted, the one who was like, I don't believe it until I can see it. he was killed by getting pierced by 4 spears at the same time while talking about Jesus. So this tells me they must have been pretty convinced of the power of this Jesus guy. Because if they were faking it, if they were trying to pull some big hoax, I think they might have stopped short of getting burned alive. I think they would have stopped short. I could tell you all this, and I could tell you that I've also experienced him myself in my own life, personally. I can tell you that I've seen him heal people. I can tell you that I've seen him completely rescue people from addiction. I could spend a whole message going through all the reasons I know Jesus is real and the story of the Bible is true. I could talk you into it and you would probably believe me. But guess what? That wouldn't be good enough. Convincing you with words would not be enough. Because the moment you got confronted with someone else's convincing words, you'd be tempted to throw it all away. The moment you heard some college professor rant passionately about how God can't be real, the moment you stumble upon a 60-second TikTok explaining how Christianity is just one big scam because of XYZ, the moment you walk through something difficult and you feel like God isn't around, the moment you faced any resistance, your faith would crumble because it was just built on the most recent convincing argument. The reason so many people walk away from the faith is because they never actually had faith in the first place. They just believed some convincing argument in the heat of the moment. What I'm trying to tell you tonight is convincing words is not enough. The facts aren't enough. Because you're gonna face some people that will tell you it's crazy to believe, and here's why. And then you'll go face somebody else that said, it's crazy not to believe, and here's why. And they'll both be so convincing. You'll be like, oh man, I don't know. And that's why people are so confused. You don't need proof that Jesus is real. You need to experience him for yourself. Because when you taste and see that the Lord is good for yourself, when you put your faith in him and really begin to trust him and really begin to go for this, you won't need someone else's convincing words. You'll have it for yourself. You'll be like, I don't need anybody else to tell me this. I already know. You'll be able to say like that blind man in John chapter 9 who was like, I don't know how to explain it, but all I know is I was blind and now I see. Sometimes the power or presence of God can't be explained in a textbook. It can't fit in a mathematical equation. It can't be understood in a 30-second TikTok. That's why Paul, when he was writing to the church in Corinth, he said in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, here's when my prayer this week. My message and my preaching were very plain. Rather than using clever and persuasive speeches, I relied on the power of the Holy Spirit. And I did this so you would not trust in human wisdom, but in the power of God. Wisdom and knowledge are important. Listen, you should study God's word. You should learn all you can. You should be able to explain why you believe what you believe, but it's God's power that truly changes us. It's his presence that sets us free, not a convincing argument. And here's the truth for us tonight. It still requires faith. That's it all requires faith. You wouldn't need faith if Jesus walked up to you with some holes in his hands and said, here you go, touch it. That's why he said, blessed are those who believe without seeing, because it takes some faith. We don't have the benefit of getting what Thomas got. But I will say this, your doubts don't disqualify you from experiencing Jesus. Because his response to Thomas's doubts wasn't to ignore him or tell him he wasn't spiritual enough or too weak to believe. He appeared to him. He let him experience him. And he can do that same thing for you. It's impossible to please God without faith though, so it's gonna take some level of faith from you. There's no way around that. You can't take faith out of the equation. I know we would like to. I know we'd like to have here's the 10 reasons, absolute proof why Jesus is real and he rose from the dead and the Bible's true and da-da-da. You wouldn't need faith. That's why the Bible says it's impossible to please God without faith. And if you remain at the center of your world, here's what I'm telling you will happen. Your doubts will likely derail you from ever choosing to put your faith in Jesus in the first place. It'll just be too loud. Wherever you are tonight, whatever you're walking through right now, I'm convinced that Jesus is the answer. Jesus isn't just some historical figure. He isn't just a wise prophet. He isn't just a symbol of love and peace. He isn't just a social justice figurehead. He isn't just a cross necklace. He isn't just that thing your parents believe in. He isn't just a crutch for the people who are weak. He's the Savior of the world. He's the one who can forgive you of your past He's the one who can set you free from addiction. He's the one who can love you unconditionally. He's the one who can heal you. He's the one who can deliver you. He's the one who can fill you with his Holy Spirit. He's the one who can help you not be a slave to your desires anymore. He's the one who can help you overcome your dysfunction. He's the one who can silence those doubts. He's the one who belongs at the very center of your life, and you can meet him tonight. You can decide once and for all to push past those selfish desires, to overcome the personal dysfunction, and to make your doubts bow down to something so much greater. You can do it tonight. But you gotta have some faith. So my prayer for this moment right here is that some of you would decide for the first time to put your faith in Jesus. Not because you heard a convincing message, not because the lights are cool, but because you're just deciding, I'm gonna give this thing a real shot. I'm gonna actually go for this. And I'm convinced that if you really go for it, you won't need the proof anymore because the proof is in the pudding. How many of you know? When you experience it, you don't need anybody else to tell you anything different because you know. Some of you have never experienced it, that's why you're wavering. I want you to experience it tonight. So here's what I want you to do all across this room. Why don't you stand to your feet quietly, right where you are, just stand. Some of you are in here tonight and one of those things stuck with you. Like maybe for you, your desires have been driving you. You've been at the center of your world. You just do whatever you feel like doing and it keeps coming up empty. You fake it on the outside like, I love doing this. But then you go home at night and you're just empty. I know that's the case. Like you're not fooling anybody. You were created to be in relationship with God. That's the main reason he made you. So you can go through life and experience a whole lot of success, try a whole lot of things, do a whole lot of great, awesome stuff. But if you have not gotten into the family of God, gotten into relationship with God, it will ultimately feel pretty empty because you'll be missing out on the main reason you were created, to be in God's family. Some of you tonight, it's the dysfunction. You just feel like you've messed up too much, you got too much baggage, too many mistakes, and you're like, I don't even know if do I have to say 100 prayers first or go to church a few weeks first? No, actually, just as you are, you can come. Exactly how you are. Jesus will take you with just like that paralyzed man laid there for 38 years. It just took one moment with Jesus, everything changed. It can happen for you tonight. Some of you, you've been doubting, you've been skeptical, and I get it. It's easy to doubt. It's easy to be skeptical. But you're never gonna be convinced by someone's argument. You'll never know unless you try. You'll never know unless you experience it for yourself. And I wanna invite you to give it a shot tonight. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna count to 3. And when I count to 3, if you're in this room and you need to put your faith in Jesus for the first time, maybe it's an act of rededication, you're getting back on track. Maybe for you, you've been the center of your own world and you know it, and you're tired of doing this because it's not working, it's just miserable. And you wanna put Jesus in his rightful place tonight. I'm gonna count to 3, and I'm not gonna have you lift your hand or anything like that. I'm gonna have you come down to the front, and we're not gonna bow our heads and close our eyes, although that's fine. It's just a different environment tonight. And if it's too much to step out from your seat, it's probably not gonna work anyway. It's probably not gonna work anyway because you're gonna get much more resistance than that. This is a room that's cheering for you, that wants you to take that step, that wants you to make that move. And so I've been praying that in this moment there'd be a few people. It could be one, here's a crazy thought. You might be the only person in here tonight that this is for. And you may be the only one that comes down here. Everybody's gonna be looking at you. You'll be like, look at that guy, he's the only one. I'm telling you, that would be enough for this whole room to lose their mind. Because that's one person that was blind, but now the scales are gonna fall from their eyes. And so, here's what I don't want. I don't want you to come down here because of the hype. Don't waste your time. Because then you're gonna come down here next year, you're gonna come down here the year after that. That's not, and I'm not like, okay, my whole row ran, I guess I better go. No. This is a you thing. This isn't a group thing. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna count to 3. And when I say 3, if you're in this place, you know I'm talking to you. I don't want you to hesitate or think about it, let me see if anybody else moves first. Make the first move. That girl's been asking you to do it forever anyway. Time to make it with Jesus, all right? Make that first move, all right? Just kidding, okay. On the count of 3, if you know I'm talking to you, this is your moment. You're gonna start walking down here. Team's gonna sing a little bit. They're gonna sing a song that really is such a perfect song for the theme of this year. It's called Jesus at the Center, and they're gonna be singing as you walk down. And as you get down here, you may worship a little bit as we kind of wait for everybody to get here. If you don't move and you're standing in your seat, worship God. Maybe for you, this is a moment, even if you're not giving your life to Jesus for the first time, maybe you need to just have a moment and say, God, I need to realign my life a little bit. You've gotten just a little off center. I need to bring you back. I've gotten distracted by some other things. This can be a moment for you too, right from your seat. But if you know I'm talking to you, you need salvation tonight. You need forgiveness tonight. You need freedom tonight. You need a relationship with God tonight. Then on the count of 3, I want you to come down front. 1, God loves you. He knew this moment was coming long before you were ever born. He's ready for it. 2, the Bible says today is the day of salvation. 3, if that's you, just start moving right now. Just start coming down. We can give it up for them. They're gonna sing a little bit. Let's start singing. Come on, just start moving. Come on, let's sing a little bit. Come on, yeah. If you're not coming down, just worship right where you are. Just worship right where you are. If you're coming down front, you can worship a little bit. Close your eyes. Have a moment with God.
Jesus at the center of it all.
We got time. We got plenty of time. If you're in the back, you can come down.
From beginning to the end, it will always be. It's always been you, Jesus. Jesus, 'cause nothing else matters.
Man, that's the truth right there.
Nothing in this world will do.
Nothing else is gonna work. Still people coming. Come on, let's
Jesus, you're the center.
We can flow this way if we need to. If you need to make room over here.
Everything revolves around you. Jesus, you at the center of it all. The center of it all.
Okay. Looks like we got most people down here. I see some of you. I can tell this is real in your eyes. I can tell it's real in your heart. And maybe you've been running. You know, it's funny. You go a couple years without an environment like this and you forget how powerful it is. Because I know a lot of you have been going to youth group every week, so it's not like you haven't had opportunities, but there's just something different about an environment like this. That's why I'm so glad we're doing this. That's why I'm so glad you're here. And that's why I believe it's no accident that you're here. I'm not sure what brought you here, but I know that God knew you were gonna be here. He has an amazing plan for your life. And I know, here's the deal. You're gonna have a moment like this. You're gonna pray a prayer in just a minute. We're gonna pray all together. We'll worship a little bit. You're gonna feel a lot of love, a lot of God's presence. And then you're gonna walk out and you're gonna go back to everything that's pretty much normal. You're still here with your friends, and you go back to your hotel room, go back to your house. And that's when the rubber meets the road. And that's where faith comes in. Man, I'm telling you what, it only works when Jesus is right here in the center. It doesn't work if he's right here, kind of floating around. So you got to go all in. If you're down here tonight, I'm assuming you're going all in. This isn't an add-on sort of thing. This isn't all the way in. If you're standing down here, lift your hands up in the air just like this. Surrender. You can close your eyes. I don't want you to look to your neighbor, talk to your neighbor. If you're out in the crowd, you can stretch your hands toward them. We're going to pray a prayer. I want you to repeat after me. And when we say amen, everybody's going to celebrate. We're going to sing a little more and worship and let God's presence just kind of rest on you. Maybe you need some love tonight. You need some forgiveness tonight. I believe this next moment can be very healing for you. But repeat after me. Say, Father God. Come on, all together. Say, Father God, I love you. Thank you for sending Jesus to die on a cross and rise again. I ask you now, forgive me of all my sin. Cleanse me. Make me new. I put you at the center of my life. Nothing else comes first but you. I declare you are Lord of my life. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Come on, let's celebrate and let's worship a little bit. Let's worship.